Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Joe Rogan played the O2 Arena in London. The Guardian gave it 2 stars out of 5, and that's the best review I have for you. The Guardian wrote, Joe Rogan review, dumb guy comedy grounded in an alpha male world. While his stand-up takes pains to short-circuit offense, fear of emasculation underpins too many of the gags. Wow. Joe Rogan complains on stage, talking crap used to be fun. It didn't used to have so many consequences. The Guardian says Rogan sounds quite sensitive to the pushback against him saying the N-word on his podcast or broadcasting anti-vaccine misinformation, which is ironic because every routine here is bookended by a peeve about how sensitive people are these days. Watching the show, I can understand his resentment at being branded sexist, homophobic, and the rest, joke for joke. He's not overtly chauvinistic, and when he risks being so, he takes pains to frame things in ways that short-circuit the offense. The overall persona helps. Unlike his unlovely support act Tony Hinchcliffe, he doesn't want us to admire his opinions, repeatedly sending up his own stupidity and lack of authority. There's a lovely thought experiment about a tribe of uncontacted white people, a trip inside Rogan's head where he's interviewing Elon Musk, and a droll interrogation of the airport security policy around frisking a man's private parts. But as the latter joke suggests, and even allowing that as he insists they're all just jokes, it's striking how much of alpha male Rogan's material has a fear of emasculation at its core. So there's a routine about hyenas and their matriarchal society, warning where Me Too might lead us, and a riff on how virile Rogan was when age 13 and hopes to still be in his dotage. Rogan makes talking crap entertaining. It's just a shame he talks about it in such a narrow, macho range of subjects. All right, that was the good review. Chortle gave it 1 star. They pointed out Joe Rogan's audience didn't quite pack out the O2 with the nosebleeds going for well over 100 pounds each. Cheery puffs of berry-flavored vape smoke drift over the vast arena like swamp gas from a bog. It's not as exclusively male as you might expect. Crowd's about 15% women, and they're vocal at first, although they become slightly less so as the comics roll out their material. 3 openers. First up, Korean-American comic Hans Kim, jokingly introducing himself as gender fluid to boos from the crowd. Setting the tone, he busts out a couple of mid-tier slurs right out of the gate and moves swiftly on to material about Asian stereotypes, trans athletes, and the differences between men and women. He seems to perform a sort of beta male role with the troupe, or at least is the only comedian to affect anything like low status. Wow. Brian Simpson comes as close to bombing as possible. Wow. Where laughter is generally reduced to a kind of ambient wind, his long-form storytelling and strangulated delivery doesn't hold water with this audience. Third opener, the incredibly grim Tony Hinchcliffe. He gets the biggest laugh of the night by referencing Liz Truss, but during his particular take on trans athletes, a dark cloud begins to descend for anyone still on the fence. Then Rogan, and Turtle writes, there's an interesting tension between his fully toxic masculinity and the side of him that likes to take mushrooms and proclaim his love for all mankind. He says it's this love that means he could never be homophobic, but despite his protestations, he's homophobic in a weirdly literal way, running through routines that seem to hinge on a genuine fear of gay men, what they might do to him, and becoming gay himself. Maybe if he smoked less weed, he'd be less paranoid. It does raise an interesting question as to why he cares so much about whether people think he's sexist, racist, or homophobic. Most people would probably say he's all three, but it doesn't seem like it should matter to him. His whole position is so staunchly individualist, so based in not caring. It's interesting that he comes back so often to the critics and what he's allowed or not to say from his giant $200 million platform. Like his sport acts, he repeatedly dares us to take to Twitter and complain about the many unsayable things that are said on stage, which would feel braver if they hadn't been so incredibly strict about making sure our phones were in locked bags. Yikes, harsh reviews there. Chris Redd will have a new special out November 3rd. It's called Chris Redd, Why Am I Like This? This one's on HBO Max. It was filmed in St. Louis. The special will feature Chris Redd examining pivotal parts of his life that made him into the person he is today. Among these pivotal parts of his life are the realizations that he'd been chasing someone else's dreams, the NBA, Saturday Night Live, and becoming the next Notorious B.I.G., and the time he cried next to a woman twerking with all her might. Damon Wayans talked to BuzzFeed about movies like White Chicks and if such films could exist in the current culture. Damon Wayans said, I think they're needed. I don't know what planet we're on, where you don't think people need laughter and that people need to be censored or canceled. If a joke's going to get me canceled, thank you for doing me that favor. It's sad that society's in this place where we can't laugh anymore. I ain't listening to this damn generation. I ain't listening to these folks, these scared people, these scared executives. Y'all do what you want to do. Great. I'm still going to tell my jokes the way I tell them. And if you want to make some money, jump on board. If not, I'll find a way to do it myself. I know my audience. My audience comes to my shows every weekend. They leave feeling great and laughing. One thing about the Wayans, we've always told the worst joke the best way. Even your mom probably knows about Gabriel Iglesias now because he was on CBS this morning. I'm assuming your mom is in her 70s. Gabe talked about his mom and said, she wasn't strict, she was fair, and I tested her many times as a kid. Fortunately, I learned quickly that I don't like pain, and the host says an occasional spanking or two. And Gabe said, spanking is light. No, my mom had a belt. She had a nail that she put in the kitchen on the wall, and she would hang the belt on the nail, and she'd go, I'm your mom, and that's your dad. You let me know when you want to talk to him. And I'm like, okay. Doesn't sound all that healthy, does it? Gabe also talked about his diabetes, and he said, it's due to drive-thrus. I'm a heavy guy now, but I used to be 100 pounds heavier. And it's easy to do it when you're younger, but time starts creeping up on you. You got to adjust, or it'll adjust for you. He was asked if he got diagnosed with diabetes. Diabetes, yeah. And I still wear a monitor right here that, keeps tabs on my blood sugar and lets me know when I'm acting a fool. But you wear this long enough, you already know. I already know. Just looking at something. Yeah, it's like an extra relationship. Don't even think about it. But if there's an opportunity for a moment, I feel like I still need my little moments. Up Rocks had a little bit more about Mike Birbiglia's appearance in the Taylor Swift video for Anti-Hero. At 2 minutes, 12 seconds into the video, it's the part of the song where Taylor Swift sings, I have this dream, my daughter-in-law kills me for the money, she thinks I left him in the will, the family gathers around and reads it, and then someone screams out, she's laughing up at us from hell. The sketch takes place at Taylor Swift's funeral as the attendees sit in front of her casket. We then get a look at the characters involved. One of the characters, Preston, the son married to Taylor Swift's daughter-in-law, as played by Mike Birbiglia. Preston gets up to read Taylor Swift's will, discovering she left her beach house to 3 of her cats and her children were given 13 cents each. They're dismayed until one of the characters, Chad, realizes, there's probably a secret encoded message that means something else. Preston, as played by Mike Birbiglia, reads the will. P.S. There's no secret encoded message that means something else. Love, Taylor. And from The Mirror, Rob McElhenney paid tribute to his co-chairman of Wrexham AFC, Ryan Reynolds. It was Ryan Reynolds' birthday. Rob had a blimp flown from Wrexham's home stadium on Sunday. On the blimp, a picture of Ryan Reynolds. McElhenney on Twitter posted, the head and the mouth are to scale, but the eyes are 50% more dreamy in real life. Happy birthday, Ryan Reynolds. In the video, Rob said, to celebrate my co-chairman's birthday this year, I want to do something special. I wanted the entire team to run out of Ryan's giant inflatable mouth at the next match, but I heard that might be bad for player morale. The giant inflatable mouth is then seen with the players running out of it before turning and criticizing the gesture. Star forward Paul Mullen, who has 11 goals in 13 appearances, mutters, idiots. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, audio version on YouTube. See you tomorrow.